pandemic amnesty, forgiving one another. You understand, I'm about to read you heartbreaking stories, but you understand that America was revealed under COVID, talking about stress tests, to be a tyranny. You already live in a tyranny. Oh, I know most of the lockdowns and requirements and mandates, most, not all, but most have gone away. I get that now, so it doesn't feel like you live in a tyranny. But if you live in a country where politicians can point at you and say, you're not essential, close your business, you shouldn't be out on the beach, you're arrested, you're a pastor doing church, you're under arrest, that you live in a tyranny. That's a tyranny. You already live in one. That make you uncomfortable? Made me uncomfortable. It was horrific watching it. And I'm not kind to tyrants. I don't forgive and forget tyrants, not ever. Tyrants are the worst human beings in the history of the world. Powerful people who crush the powerless. You'll get no forgiveness here. You'll get no amnesty here. Now, maybe if you have a public trial and after you're convicted when you're on the way to prison for the rest of your life, maybe if you get on your knees in front of me and beg me for forgiveness for what you've done, maybe in that moment I will forgive and then send you off to prison. But don't think for a second you're going to do the things I'm about to read to you and just to say, hey, let's let bygones be bygones. You want to hear some stories? You want to know why we need a reckoning? These are your stories. First day as a cop was 6 months into business shutdowns and lockdowns. Responded to a murder-suicide of a father that lost his job and killed himself and his 7-year-old son. Record high child suicides that year will haunt me forever. Oh, there's a lot more. Like I said, get your tissues ready. My mom's physician closed his in-person practice for a year, resulting in my mom losing her eyesight. She has macular degeneration and requires monthly eye injections and didn't receive them. She's now legally blind with no way to restore her vision. Another. Got to stand outside my father's hospital room on the lawn and watch him pass away. Alone. My 30-year-old son-in-law couldn't see a doctor for a sharp pain in the belly. The Zoom doctor told him he had kidney stones. 7 months later, he could finally see a doctor, diagnosed with stage 4 terminal kidney cancer. No diagnosis or chemo per lockdown. Now is metastatic. My daughter is devastated. We all are. I'm going to keep going. But I just want you to understand there's more of these, and I don't want you to try to run away from the pain and sadness and anger you're feeling right now. I want you to let it wash over you, and I want you to remember these things didn't happen. These things were done to you. People with names did these things to you. Republicans and Democrats did these things to you. Public health officials. Parents did them to their children. Children did them to their parents. Brothers did it against sisters and other brothers. These things were done to you by people. Let us continue. Oh gosh, I forgot about this one. One of my listeners named Ben sent in a picture, actually. What was the picture? It was Ben FaceTiming with his father as his father died in the hospital in Christmas of 2020. Brenda writes, our autistic daughter greatly suffered during lockdowns. She couldn't get appointments she needed, and for a child that does not speak, wearing masks from workers trying to help with speech was utterly pointless. Much needed help she could have received, but nothing mattered but COVID. All right, you thought all that was really bad? Last year, on February 9th on my radio show, as you can imagine, I like to laugh and have fun on my radio show just like we do here. But I decided to dedicate an entire episode to this. I called it The Reckoning. It was 3 hours of your stories of this stuff. And I even opened up the phones that night. And I don't know how long I'm going to live on this planet. Probably 60, 70 years. That's generally when the Kelly men check out. I will go to my grave and I will remember this phone call. This is the phone call of a father. It's a little hard to hear because he's so choked up and weeping. This is a phone call of a father who has a 6'5", severely autistic son who needed regular therapy, was denied it because of COVID, and now this 6'5" autistic son has descended into psychosis and physically attacks his mother and father every single day. Can you even imagine what that is like?
So,
it's all right, John. It's okay.
18-year-old special needs student, autistic. He's never recovered. He's alive. He just couldn't go back to school. He's 20 now. He's 6'5". I'm 6'4". He's in psychosis. He attacks us. He attacks us almost every day because he's in psychosis.
John, you just you don't have to say anymore. You don't have to say anymore. Everyone just heard you. Don't have to say anymore.
Everybody, it's heartbreaking.
I
I
can't even imagine. God bless you, my brother.
Jesse.
God bless you. All right.
Amnesty? You want to move on? I'm not moving on. I will never move on. I demand a reckoning. And do keep in mind, while all these stories were happening, John Lewis got a massive funeral. While you couldn't bury your mother or your father, you said goodbye on FaceTime. John Lewis died, and there they all gathered, every scumbag in the world, shoulder to shoulder, to praise the saintly John Lewis. You see, your dad didn't matter. Your mom didn't matter. Your grandpa, brother, sister, they didn't matter. They weren't important. John Lewis, though, COVID apparently, COVID was good enough to get away from the John Lewis funeral. I want to once again tell you, these things didn't happen. These things were done to you. This wasn't just a, well, whoopsie. People with names did these things to you. And I watched, and you heard me yell and scream about it right here on the first. I watched from day one. I watched all the powerful people just take a big steaming dump on all the powerless. You didn't have a platform. You didn't have the power. You didn't. And they all just talked to each other the whole time, and nobody heard from you. Nobody cared about you. Well, few of us did, I guess I should say. Few people cared about you, spoke up for you, and now that you've been abused in a million different ways and left behind by tyrants, you want to move on? No, I will never move on. I don't tell you what to do. I'm not your dad or your priest. You move on if you want to. I will move on when I have had my reckoning. That's when I will move on.